This is the story of the Sun People and the Ice People. One afternoon, Jalisa and Jamairo came home from school feeling unhappy. Something had happened at school that made them feel bad inside. Their mom noticed their sad faces. "What's wrong, my loves?" she asked softly. Jalisa sighed and told her mom. During break, John came up to me and asked me in front of all the children why my nose, lips, and hair were so big. Then when Jamairo tried to stand up for me, he said to Jamairo, "Your skin is so dark, it looks like you never wash." Then all the school kids laughed. Jamairo nodded sadly and added, "I told the teacher, but she just shrugged and said, 'You're old enough now. Words can't hurt you if you don't let them.'" Mom hugged them both. "That must have really hurt," she said softly. "But we are going to talk more about this. Let's wait until your dad comes home." John's mom and dad were feeling unhappy. Jalisa and Jamairo's father had passed by John's home to talk to his mother and father about the incident that had happened at school. That afternoon, John's father sat him and his younger sister, Jane, down on his lap, and they snuggled close. He smiled at them, his eyes full of love. "I'm really disappointed in how you treated Jalisa. This behavior isn't who we are, John. That's not how we treat people," he said. "You need to apologize to her and learn to treat everyone equally. We all have a responsibility to make the world a better place for everyone." That same afternoon, when Jalisa and Jamairo's dad arrived home from work, they sat down with him. They told him everything that had happened at school. Their dad listened carefully, then sat them down on his lap and hugged them tightly. He smiled at them, his eyes full of love. "I'm so proud of you both for being strong," he said. "But I know this kind of thing can still sting. I have spoken to your teacher and to John's parents. We will meet up with John, his sister Jane, and their parents at the beach because John wants to apologize." When Jalisa, Jamairo, and their parents arrived at the beach, John, his sister Jane, and his parents had already arrived. They sat down after greeting each other. John's father then said, "We brought you all here because we think it is important for you to learn from what happened this afternoon at school. You are now old enough to learn about racism. It's time we talk to you about the Sun People and the Ice People. Let me tell you their story. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, God created the Sun People. The Sun People lived in a warm land where the sun always shines. Their land was filled with bright, colorful flowers, tall, blooming trees, and clear, sparkling water running down the river streams. The Sun People lived an abundant life under the soft and golden sun that smiled down on them every day. They were the first and only people living on our planet we call Mother Earth. They are the original people. John's father said to his son and daughter John and Jane, "As a matter of fact, Jalisa and Jamairo are the descendants of the Sun People." Jalisa and Jamairo's father smiled and looked at John and his sister Jane and continued, "That is true." Then he turned to his son and daughter and said with a smile, "Yes, Jalisa and Jamairo, you are indeed the descendants of the Sun People, my son and daughter." Jalisa and Jamairo's father continued, "The Sun People had been gifted with lots of melanin, so the Sun People came in different colors. Some had skin the color of brown or black chocolate. Some had skin the color of copper or gold honey. The Sun People look just like you, my son and daughter, with their warm, glowing skin that shine just like the sun," their father said to them with a smile. He continued, "Our ancestors, the Sun People, were always happy because the sun took great care of them. The sun, together with Mother Earth, made sure they had everything they wanted and needed to feel happy, healthy, and strong. The sun gave them plenty of food to eat and fresh water to drink. When the Sun People felt hungry, they just stepped outside their beautiful homes and found all kinds of delicious fruits and vegetables growing on trees, bushes, and on the ground. The Sun Children loved climbing up the trees to pick the fresh fruits. The Sun people had delicious food, thanks to all the herbs and spices the sun gave them. The Sun people always smelled nice because of the soap and perfume the sun provided. They had all the materials they needed, so they wore the most beautiful clothes anyone had ever seen. The sun had given the Sun people sparkling gold, silver, and colorful shiny diamonds to make jewelry that made them look like royalty. The Sun people lived in heaven, a paradise on earth, because the sun makes sure there's always plenty for everyone. There was no hunger or homelessness under the Sun people. Because the Sun people had it all, they never had to be jealous or selfish, lie, or steal anything from anyone. Because the sun guarantees that there is enough of everything for everyone. The Sun people never needed to lock their doors, because the sun always provides with abundance. Everyone had what they needed, so there was no sadness, no fighting. The Sun people were always kind and treated each other like family. Because the sun gave the Sun people everything they wanted, they looked after Mother Earth and all of her animals. Because the sun would never do anything unless everybody could benefit from it. The Sun people also never thought about themselves alone. The Sun people always took care of each other, because there was no me or I with the Sun people, only we. They lived in Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. The Sun people knew that when they helped each other, everyone could be happy. The Sun people were so loving. And like the sun, they shared everything they had with everybody. They always told the truth and lived in peace. There was no loneliness because they could trust each other. The Sun people lived in harmony with each other. Everyone was happy in the land of the sun. The Sun people believed that no one owns Mother Earth's lands. Mother Earth belongs to no one, but we belong to Mother Earth. We are her children, and we must take care of her like she takes care of us. The Sun people knew that we cannot live without Mother Earth, but Mother Earth can live without us. The Sun people recognized that we are part of Mother Earth and did their best to live according to her universal laws. Because the Sun people lived an abundant life under the sun, the sun was very special to the Sun people. They saw the sun as a sign of the love of God, because like God, the sun gave them life, warmth, and love. They spent their days playing, laughing, having fun, and enjoying life together. The Sun people were a happy people. Jalisa and Jamairo's dad paused before he continued. Then one day, about 6,000 years ago, God created the Ice people. The Ice people lived in a land that was without sun. Their land was filled with ice and snow, so the Ice people had to live in the caves, because the caves was the only place where they could find some shelter and heat from the freezing cold. The Ice people's skin looked pale like ice and white as snow, because the Ice people lived in caves away from the sun. They lost all their melanin, the ingredient that gave the Sun people's skin its beautiful colors. Jalisa and Jamairo's father paused. Then John's father turned to his son and daughter and said, "In fact, we are the descendants of the Ice people." He looked at them and explained sadly, because the Ice people, our ancestors, had no sun. It was too cold for anything to grow. So the Ice people were always hungry and in a bad mood. They didn't have the fruits and vegetables like the Sun people, so they had to eat anything that they could find, because there was never enough food available. The Ice people had to steal from each other to get what was available, so they became jealous and selfish. And in order to keep what they had to lie and hide what they had from one another, because they never had enough of anything. They were always fighting. The Ice people didn't like each other like the Sun people did. John's father continued, because the Ice people didn't have the sun. They didn't have the food, spices, soap, perfume, the gold, the diamonds, or the nice, loving society like the Sun people, who always had enough of everything. So then one day, our ancestors, the Ice people, decided to leave their caves and leave Europe. And when our ancestors, the Ice people, finally arrived in the land of the sun, In Africa, the Sun people welcomed them with open arms. Jalissa and Jamiro's great-great-great-grandmother and great-great-great-grandfather, the Sun people, embraced the Ice people, our great-great-great-grandmother and great-great-great-grandfather, like family. Because the Sun people always look out for everybody. They treated the Ice people like they were their brothers and sisters. They shared everything they had with the Ice people, their food, their knowledge. The Sun people even helped build homes for the Ice people to live in. They gave them their finest clothes and jewelry to wear. Then they taught them how to take care of themselves, how to clean their bodies with soap, how to grow and cook their own food, and how to farm the animals. They showed them how to be devoted husbands and loving wives, how to raise their kids and build a caring family. They gave them the tools to build homes and great civilizations. But that was a big mistake, because the more the Sun people helped the Ice people, the more jealous and envious the Ice people became of the Sun people because of everything they had and everything the Sun, Mother Earth, and God gave them. So our ancestors, the Ice people, planned to take everything the Sun people had away from them. Our ancestors, the Ice people, had everything they needed to survive in Africa, the land where the sun never stops giving. They had all the things they wanted to be happy in the land of the Sun people. But our ancestors, the Ice people, were so used to being selfish and stealing. They wanted to take the land the Sun people lived in. They wanted to own Mother Earth, even though Mother Earth belongs to no one. Our ancestors, the Ice people, had the bad habit of lying and hiding things to get what they wanted. So the Ice people smiled to trick the Sun people into thinking that they were best friends with the Sun people. The Ice people pretended to be good people to make the Sun people believe that they could trust them. But instead, the Ice people were plotting behind their back to take and destroy everything the Sun people had. Their land, their animals, and all their valuable resources. The Ice people were so jealous and angry for all the things that the Sun people possess. So, to control the Sun people and everything the Sun gave them, the Ice people made up racism and turned the whole world against the Sun people. The Sun people defended themselves and fought back, but because our ancestors, the Ice people, were so wicked and evil, they succeeded in turning the Sun people, Jalissa and Jamiro's ancestors, their great-great-great-grandparents who had treated our ancestors, the Ice people, like family, into their slaves. Instead of sharing with each other all the abundance that the Sun provides, our ancestors, the Ice people, ended up hurting the Sun people, Mother Earth, and God. Our ancestors' greed caused a lot of harm to many people, especially the Sun people. John's father looked at his son and daughter with a serious but gentle look. "You see, my loves," he said, "I know our family comes from the Ice people, who are racist and mean. They didn't treat the Sun people very kindly, but that doesn't mean we should act the same way. We don't speak or treat others with hate or unkindness, no matter where they come from or what they look like." John's father looked at his son gently. "John," he said, "I know you didn't mean to hurt anyone, but words, especially racist words, can really hurt. When we call people names or say something mean, it makes them feel like they don't belong. It makes them feel sad inside. And that's never what we want to do. Imagine if someone said something like that to you. It would hurt, right?" John nodded, his eyes wide, starting to understand. John's father continued, "That's why it's so important to be kind and choose words that make people feel happy." He looked at John and Jane and said, "So whenever you want to say something mean, I want you to remember what our ancestors, the Ice people, did to the Sun people. But most important, we must remember that we are all part of Mother Earth, no matter where we come from." Then John's father turned to Jalissa and Jamiro and said with a gentle smile, "You see, my dear ones," he said, "our ancestors, the Ice people, were jealous of your ancestors, the Sun people, because they had everything. And today, Many ice people are still jealous. They are jealous of you, the sun people, because they want to be just like you, the sun people, who still have everything. So, whenever ice people try to hurt you, whenever one of them tries to make fun of you, I want you to smile and think of your great, great, great ancestors, the sun people. When people try to be mean to you, I want you to remember that you, the sun people, are a special and a beautiful people, and that this is why the ice people are treating you this way. After hearing the story of how the ice people were jealous of the sun people, John felt a little bad about what he had done, but he also felt hopeful that he could fix it by being kinder and making things right. John took a deep breath and looked at Jalissa. I'm really sorry for what I said. I know I hurt you. I won't do it again. John turned to Jamairo, who was watching him carefully. Jamairo, John said, his voice sincere, I apologize for what I said about your sister and to you. It was wrong, and I am really sorry. Jamairo looked at him for a moment, then nodded, his expression softening. It's good you're saying sorry, he said, but remember, we all deserve respect, no matter what we look like. John nodded, feeling a little embarrassed, but also proud for saying what he needed to. I know now, he said. I shouldn't have said those things, and I'll never say them again. Feeling a bit braver, John held out his hand to Jamairo. Will you forgive me? Jamairo smiled, shaking his hand firmly. I forgive you, John. Then to John's surprise, Jamairo pulled him into a hug. It takes courage to say sorry, Jamairo said. I'm proud of you. Thank you, John said. He felt a warm feeling in his heart. He turned to Jalissa, giving her a gentle hug. I'm really sorry, Jalissa, he said again. I won't ever say anything like that again. I promise. Jalissa smiled and gave him a hug back. Thank you for saying sorry, she said. Before bedtime, John's father gave him and Jane a hug and said, smiling, I'm proud of you for saying sorry, son. John felt lighter and happier than he had all day. From that moment on, he promised to always be kind and treat everyone with love, just like the sun people in his dad's story. In the meantime, Jalissa and Jamairo's father told them before bedtime, I want you to always remember the sun people and the ice people. You are strong, beautiful, and full of love, just like your ancestors, the sun people. Your skin, your hair, those are things that make you you, my son and daughter. And there's no one else in the world quite like you, my beautiful daughter, Jalissa, and you, my son, Jamairo. I am proud of how you came to defend your sister, and I want you to remember that you are a handsome young man, just the way you are. And if ever anything like this happens again, I want you to tell your mother, all right, when you come home, just like you did today, and just like the sun people. Together we will find a solution. Jalissa and Jamairo smiled. They hugged their dad tight, feeling much better. And from that day on, whenever anyone said something unkind, they remembered the story of the sun people and the ice people. They knew that the sun would always shine bright on them, no matter what, because they were the sun people. The end.